What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. Power line today is kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg. I'm joined today with Vinki Loomba. How are you today, Vinki?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. You know, we've met a few times. I don't always meet my guests on Chance Encounters, but for you in the audience, if you don't know what we're up to here, first, what we do is everybody who gets in a chance encounter is a commercial real estate investor. And so what I do is I quickly go through the 5 different motivations that I've found that people generally have for getting into their next commercial property. After that, I pull out the Dan Does Deal die with the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. And I say, hey, so which one of these is you? But speaking of which is you, Vinki, could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, I am Vinki Loomba. I'm a syndicator and an investor in commercial real estate. My focus is multifamily, and I've been doing this for the last couple of years. Prior to that, I was an IT professional as well as a professor at Cal State University.
Excellent, excellent. So lots of paper, lots of qualifications. That's fun stuff. All right. So for the first segment of this show, I'll pull up my screen, and of course, OBS decides to give me a little bit of problem, so I hit that, and boom, we have a screen. So usually beginners don't really know what role they're going to play in a commercial deal. Vinki, of course, does, but everybody knows the motivation for getting into one, so that's why I'm going through the motivation first. So the 5 different motivations that people have for getting their next commercial deal, the first one is to preserve purchasing power. So basically, if you have enough assets, you've got to be concerned that if you don't aggressively acquire, then the basically inflation is going to ruin the whole party. The next reason is my one, which is that I realize that in tech, you can do very well for yourself, but there's a problem, which is that when you earn your salary, that's income, so you get to pay income tax. Whereas if you are co-GPing, if you're finding some way to be part of the GP team in a commercial deal, you're trading your time and effort for wealth directly. So that is my incentive for being in this business. The next one's the most common one, which is fast tracking retirement. And there are a couple things that are implied when I say fast tracking retirement as opposed to trading time for wealth. The first one is that you are working with something, so you're not penniless, but you know, maybe you're not even close to retirement, but at least you're working with something, so maybe an LP position to learn is a possibility. But the second thing that's more important when you're talking about fast tracking retirement is there's an end in sight. Some people, they'll never stop hustling, but this one is where, you know, maybe when they become an accredited investor, you know, maybe that's when it'll be good enough for them. But that brings me to the next group, which are the ones that are incredibly ambitious. They want to buy their entire hometown, and that's there's no limit to their ambition. There's no question that they're going to be hustling into their 90s. But that brings me to the 5th and final motivation, which is some people have a sector of society that they really want to help more than anything else. And of course, it makes sense to accumulate wealth, because what better vehicle is there to help a sector of society than to become wealthy first? So out of those 5 different motivations, which ones best describe you, Vinki?
Actually, all those are good motivations, and time to time, your motivation changes. I completely resonate with you, and in every different time phase in your life, I have, seen those motivations, and mine is kind of towards at the end now, the last motivation, helping others. Now, only one thing I a little bit disagree with you, the early retirement phase. You never retire, right? You retire from your job, your W-2. But here you're creating generational wealth, and then you're opening yourself out to other opportunities around you. and your motivation is changing. Now you wanted to help other people. You wanted to make a difference. So that's what my motivation is, and I think that's what the motivation should be for everybody after going through all the different phases.
Right, right. I completely agree. And, especially in like today's environment, if it was like 3 years ago, then inflation wasn't really on people's minds the way that it is in the last year and a half or so.
Exactly.
But, you get some people who are they're like, okay, well, get a few $1 million or however much it is, and then move out to the Philippines where the cost of living is tiny. And maybe the party will end eventually if they stop hustling. But yeah, I agree that taking care of your assets, how does that work? But
Right? You love that, right? If you love that, it's not a work. But you're not retired either because you're doing something that what you love, and that's a work too.
exactly, exactly. And that brings me to the next segment, the work part, which is the 6 different roles. So usually I start off with explaining what a repositioner is for our audience. You can see there are multiple different properties up here and some documents. And what the repositioner has to do is they have to underwrite the properties, which means they have to do the math. They have to look through to make sure that the business makes sense. But more importantly, they're also looking for upside. So the easiest ways to get upside, in other words, making more money from that property than it currently is generating. The first way is with more efficient operations. In other words, cutting expenses and making sure that, the other thing is I got the money in here because anything to do with the money in the business is part of operations. So for example, one thing that I'm doing as a co-GP part is that I'm using my digital skills to not only do marketing so that the vacancy rate is low, but also any kind of inventory, things like that. Handling the software is one thing, but of course we are in the hottest real estate market in history, so efficient operations probably isn't enough. And so frequently you have to get a contractor team to fix it up, make the apartment units nicer so that way you can charge more in rent. But me being from the internet, I'm remote based. That means I need a local as well. I need somebody who can get there in an hour because I'm up in Canada right now. Who knows where I'll be, in the future. But for now, this is my home. But I don't even want to find my passport in an hour, no less actually be at the property in an hour. So there's got to be a local in the fold. So that's more or less the day-to-day parts of the deal. And once you have, as a repositioner, once you have the property in hand or a contract, you turn around to the financier, the bank, and you say, hey, I need millions of dollars for this property because it costs millions of dollars. And then the financier is going to say, okay, but who's your sponsor? And that is the real rub for a lot of beginners. They don't even know that you need a sponsor. And a sponsor is someone who already owns a similar asset. And so that means like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, if they want to buy a 350 unit apartment complex and get a loan, they have to have somebody in the fold who already owns a 350 unit apartment complex. And then there also has to be a balance sheet equal to the amount of the loan or greater. So those are the 6 different roles. And I recall that you're a sponsor, and like you may have some capital raising capacities as a financier. But are those your core competencies? Is that what you generally add to commercial deals?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Then I
excellent.
would like to stay in that role too, more like the sponsor and KP role and the financer,
Hmm.
because I love those. I love investor relations. I
Hmm.
really get the kick out of it, meeting with people, helping people to reach their dreams or goals, whatever they have set, the financial goals for themselves. I really enjoy that. It doesn't feel like any work or any chore for me.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
really like that.
That makes a lot of sense. And so my next question usually is, what's your buy box? In other words, what are your ideal properties where there's less thinking involved in terms of unit counts and geographic areas, Vinky?
Oh, well, I would say ideally going unit wise, more than 100 units. And then there's like few things that are really important for any property. The location is number one, where you're buying, and how's the population growth in the area, and what's the job market look like over there? What does the future look like? These are just the basics that you wanted to see. And then you wanted to look at the property itself, what condition the property is, what the vintage is, how's the ownership been, for the last 10 years, 20 years, or whatever the age of the property is according to that. So these are all the basic things that you wanted to make sure. And then the operator is very important because you're betting on the operator. If the property is so operator is good, the deal is gonna fly. So I always keep that in mind, those things when I'm looking for any property in any location.
Excellent, excellent. So, for you in the audience, if you're getting into commercial investment, make sure that you know your demographics so that you know if there is that sort of growth. So I know that in general, people are looking, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. There's a lot of growth in those areas, and so that's your little cheat sheet there, audience. But you and I met through some of the meetups that I go to, and I found them through LinkedIn. Is that the best way to reach out to you, Vinki, or do you have a website that's better? Or
Yes, you can reach out to me through LinkedIn, but I do have a website, loombainvest.com. Please go there and download my free ebook, 7 Reasons Why Syndications Build Long-Term Wealth. Download that and enjoy that book.
Excellent, excellent. And then you get bonus points for using the different rolls on the die, but without enticing investors, because that's illegal, that's against the SEC rules. Can you describe the person in real estate where you're best fit to help them, or just basically you can help that type of real estate investor or operator more than anybody else? Like who can you help more?
Well, I would say this is like your perception. It all depends upon your perspective. Like, what do you want it to do? So for that, I would advise is just like step back and then just take a little inner journey. Try to figure out who you are, what you want it to be, or where you want it to be. Then kind of back engineer what you want it to do. To me, the most important role for you is the role that you enjoy the most. That is your second nature because you're going to excel in that no matter what. Like you're doing the marketing, branding thing, it's your second nature. I see your passion. I see how much you love it and how much it just comes or is flowing automatically. You're in a state of flow. So when you're in a state of flow, things are happening. You're sitting back and seeing the magic. Why work, right? Find something that you love. That's
Mhm.
my advice. That's it.
Yep, you really hit the nail on the head. So now I don't even have to tell my own skills. It's yeah, the marketing. I find the biggest thing about like content creation and whatnot is you have to tap into whoever you are as a person,
Exactly.
and that a lot of people say that, but the reason why I say it's important is a little bit different, which is that you'll never suffer from writer's block because you never stop being yourself. There's a limitless supply of just
Exactly.
being yourself. So
Mhm.
it's really a fantastic thing. So I have one other thing, and that is for the audience, which is if you look under here somewhere, there is a red button that says subscribe, and it makes me sad, and you don't want me to be sad. So if you click on it, it'll go gray, and that means that you've subscribed. And that costs you nothing. All it really means is that YouTube pays for these videos instead of me. So if you don't want me to be sad and you want YouTube to pay me some of that Google money, then definitely please subscribe. And it really makes a difference. It just means that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but I don't even have that kind of guarantee. But Vinki, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming out today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks.